I think, John, it's a well-known fact that you have a very little actor's ego in you, and yet I read that you threatened your granddaughter with banishment if she made you a great-grandfather. The two don't go together.
Well, I have a granddaughter that graduated from Vassar last summer, and I said to her, you know, Deborah, you know, I'm a sex symbol. Now, you can be a sex symbol as a grandfather. I said, it's impossible to be a sex symbol as a great-grandfather. So if I see you carrying a baby down the street, my grandchild, I'm going to walk up to you and say, how do you do? Nice to see you. And then walk right on. So we worked that out.
You know, you've done something remarkable. You've stayed married for 42 years to Julie.
Yep. It's a tribute to me and how easy I am to get along with, and what a joy I am to have her around the house, make my own breakfast, take the dogs out, those kind of things. One thing I will not do is shop. I will not go to a supermarket and shop.
Well, you can't. You'd be mobbed.
No, 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 no. What, mob or no mob, I will not do that. That's the dullest occupation that any human being has to put up with. And I really sympathize with my wife having to do that as often as she has to do it.
It's like stringing a necklace with no knot on the end. You have to keep stringing and stringing. What makes this marriage work? What makes her special?
Well, she's an unusual woman. She's very bright. She's very perceptive. She's so smart about me that it's scary. You know how a tight tether, you cannot hold an animal on a tight tether.
Right.
You cannot do the same thing with a husband either. And she has a very loose kind of hold on me. But in reality, that is a very tight hold. But she had never, ever exhibited any kind of feeling of owning me, which is very, very smart.
You know,
as
John,
a result, I'm hers.
Yeah, isn't that a wonderful thing? This is a long way, this set of Dynasty, from Ebbets Field, the home of the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yes, yes, that's where I started out in showbiz. Yeah. And then I got so intrigued with radio, I decided to become a radio actor. I got so intrigued with that that I got fascinated with acting. And one of the luckiest things that ever happened to me is that I stumbled into this profession. I've been a very fortunate man, and I'm very grateful for it. But you know that one of the reasons why I have a 42-year-old marriage is that our first child was conceived at the Ritz Carlton at the Boston Common, where I was playing Mr. Roberts there.
Oh.
In the early 1950s, 51, I believe, 51 or 52.
Is that your son? Is that your son? Who's your oldest, Brooke or?
Paige is my oldest daughter. I have a son I was married briefly.
And he's very successful. Your kids have all done very well, haven't they?
Well, again, I don't mean to sound saccharine about this, but I think my wife has been largely responsible for that. Because in our business, you spend an awful lot of time on the set, working, away, and they have the responsibility for handling the children for the most part, and raising them. And I think my wife has been exemplary in that way.
Well, let me read what your daughter, Brooke, says about you. Father is nothing like Blake Carrington, except in his relationship with his children. He's old-fashioned and humble and has a wonderful sense of humor.
That shows you how much she knows.
She's your personal assistant.
Yes, she is. She's the best secretary that has ever lived. She's been sick for a couple of years. She was a head of an agency, and she's had some undiagnosable ailment, female ailment, that I'm afraid is going to have to result in another operation for her. But in the interim, she's been my secretary. I've never had a secretary as good or as nasty or as demanding or one that pushes me around as she does, but she's great.
You've had to face some tough times. You faced your own mortality with your heart surgery. I mean, that had to be a tough go for you.
Well, I have a kind of Far Eastern philosophical attitude about that. I'm a fatalist. I believe if your time has come, that your time has come. But for that kind of an operation that I had in 1979, I was as good a candidate, the doctors said, as they could find. I was fit. Everything was working fine, except for that that part of my body. I have abnormally small coronary arteries, so that what is normal for somebody else is abnormal for me. But there's no point in crying about it. If you have to go to the dentist to have a tooth worked on, you go to the dentist and have a tooth worked on. It doesn't do you any good to sit there and cry about it. And that's been my attitude about that operation as well, and it worked very, very
You're
well
probably
for
an
me.
inspiration for those who are afraid to do something about their problems, because look at your life now for having done that.
Well, that was another thing. I didn't have to have it done, but I think with the help of my cardiologist, I figured out that I was not the kind of a person to live tentatively. I like to take a big bite out of life. I don't like to take little nibbles. And I thought that was the best way for me to go. Rather than risk a heart attack playing tennis or working late at night on a sound stage, I preferred to have that operation, and it worked out wonderfully well.
And we're all glad for that. You know, it's also a well-known fact, John, that you're a man of high ideals. I wonder if you ever put pressure on those around you to come up to your level, to have the same ideals. Or
I try not to be too judgmental, Eileen. I try not to be demanding of other people. I don't think that's a good way for people to live their lives. I'm impatient with myself. I always think that perhaps I can do better. I think I could have been a better husband, a better father, better friend, a better actor, all those kinds of things. So that kind of pressure I bring on myself, but I try very hard not to bring it on someone else.
finally, you love this role? Do you still love Blake Carrington? Is it still good?
Well, Blake Carrington is a very challenging kind of a part. It's a thing that, first of all, I didn't want to do another television series. I'd done 3 of them. And when they offered me this part, I couldn't resist it. Because it was a kind of part that Clark Gable and those kind of guys played when they were my age. Still vestiges of a romantic quality, because, you know, I do play love scenes with Linda, I play love scenes with Joan.
Tough life.
I know, and get paid for it,
That's
too.
right.
And then I was a dimensional man. You know, I had a lot of tough things about me, and a lot of caring and loving things about me, too. So that's a very challenging, complex part. And I still think there are facets of this guy that I've not gotten right yet.
I think
so I hope I'll have another chance to
I think you'll be on there long enough to find all of those facets. Thank you, John. I know it's a long and tough day for you, and I'm so grateful for your graciousness in talking to us.
My pleasure.
Thank you.